The Trump administration's recent budget cuts make the situation even more precarious. The $7,500 federal tax credit for electric vehicles expires on September 30th, while China continues aggressive subsidies for its domestic industry. As American electric vehicle sales slow, they dropped 6.3% in the second quarter of 2025. Chinese manufacturers are expanding globally, preparing to dominate markets in Europe, Latin America, and potentially North America through facilities in Mexico. Some experts argue this represents a fundamental shift in global economic power. Bill Russo, CEO of Shanghai-based strategy firm Automobility, warns that, quote, batteries, rare earth magnets, artificial intelligence-driven autonomy, and software-defined mobility are the engines of future economic and geopolitical power, unquote. Without a thriving electric vehicle industry at home, America risks forfeiting its leadership and the foundational technologies that will define the next century. The question facing American policymakers isn't whether China will dominate the electric vehicle supply chain. They already do. The question is whether the United States will develop the strategic patience and industrial focus necessary to build genuine alternatives, or whether America will continue to depend on Chinese goodwill for access to the materials that power the modern economy. As you consider your next vehicle purchase or think about America's economic future, remember that the quiet deal giving China first rights to America's electric vehicle future isn't really a deal at all. It's a recognition of a reality that took decades to create and may take decades to change. The real question is whether Americans are prepared to make the long-term investments necessary to reclaim control over their technological destiny, or whether they'll continue to accept dependency in exchange for short-term convenience.
Over the past 2 decades, while the United States focused on military interventions and financial engineering, China invested over $230 billion in electric vehicle subsidies and supply chain development. They didn't just build car factories, they secured control over every component needed to make electric vehicles, from lithium mines in South America to processing facilities in Asia. The recent trade framework between Washington and Beijing reveals just how dependent America has become. When China restricted exports of rare earth elements in April, American automakers faced the prospect of assembly lines shutting down within weeks. The deal that emerged essentially gave China everything it wanted: continued access to American markets in exchange for maintaining the flow of critical materials. The United States reduced tariffs on Chinese imports from 145% to 55%, while China agreed to fast-track export licenses for American companies, licenses that Beijing can revoke at any time. Ford CEO Jim Farley recently acknowledged something that should alarm every American. China's electric vehicle technology now surpasses United States capabilities. During a discussion at the Aspen Institute, Farley described stepping into Chinese electric vehicles where, quote, your entire digital life is seamlessly integrated into the car through artificial intelligence companions, automatic payments, and facial recognition. This isn't just about cars, it's about the technological foundation of the next industrial age. The implications extend far beyond the automotive sector. Rare earth elements power wind turbines, defense equipment, smartphones, and advanced manufacturing systems. China's control over these materials gives Beijing leverage over America's clean energy transition, military readiness, and technological competitiveness. As one industry analyst noted, they possess the ability to sway global pricing, availability of supplies, and even the speed of green technology advancements. What makes this situation particularly concerning is the timeline. Despite over $130 billion in electric vehicle investments announced in the United States since 2019, the supply chain gaps remain enormous. American companies have built battery factories and assembly plants, but they still depend on Chinese-controlled materials for the core components. Industry forecasts suggest that China will maintain dominance across all stages of the supply chain through 2040.
What if I told you that while Americans debate electric vehicle policies, China has already secured control over the future of the entire American automotive industry, not through invasion or conquest, but through something far more subtle and devastating: a quiet stranglehold on the materials that make every electric vehicle possible. Right now, as you're watching this video, China controls over 90% of the rare earth minerals that power electric vehicle motors. These aren't optional components. They're the heart of every Tesla, every Ford Lightning, every electric vehicle rolling off American assembly lines. Without these 17 obscure but incredibly powerful minerals, the entire electric vehicle revolution stops dead in its tracks. Here's what's happening behind the scenes. In June 2025, the United States and China formalized what officials called a trade framework, but what industry insiders are describing as America's quiet surrender in the electric vehicle supply chain. The deal came after China imposed export restrictions on 7 critical rare earth elements, bringing major automakers like Ford and General Motors to their knees within weeks. Tesla raised alarms about production disruptions. Suzuki had to halt manufacturing entirely. The message was clear: China holds the keys to America's electric future. The numbers paint a sobering picture. China doesn't just mine these materials, they control the entire pipeline. They extract roughly 70% of global rare earth production, but more importantly, they refine over 99% of the heavy rare earths that go into electric vehicle motors. The United States, despite having its own rare earth mine in California at Mountain Pass, sends its raw materials to China for processing. Think about that for a moment. America digs the materials out of its own soil, ships them across the Pacific to be refined by Chinese companies, then imports them back as finished products. This isn't just about economics. Each electric vehicle contains approximately 1.2 pounds of rare earth components. These minerals power the permanent magnets in electric motors, the precision systems in batteries, and the advanced electronics that make modern vehicles possible. Without neodymium, praseodymium, dysprosium, and terbium, minerals that most Americans can't even pronounce, the transition to electric vehicles becomes impossible. China understood this strategic vulnerability long before American policymakers did.